Students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Central Europe here in Hungary. I hope everybody has had a great week and is looking forward to a fantastic weekend, relaxing and productive, hopefully. Hi, alum. Welcome, students. Hi, Durga. This class, everyone, is IELTS Task 1 writing specifically for the academic version of the IELTS exam. If you are a general IELTS student, you do not need to do this kind of essay. We are looking at a pie chart band 9 example today, taken from one of our exams. Hi, Carolina. Hi, Abhishek. Rashika, nice to see our members, moderators. aehelp.com. If you are studying for the academic exam, visit us there. If you're studying for the general IELTS, visit us at IELTShelp.com. On both of these websites, we have lots and lots of help for Task 1 writing, including editing services as well. I'll quickly show you these websites. This is the academic one here with the blue background. You can click that big red button to join the premium package. We are an official British Council IELTS registration center, and we have British Council certified agents as well. This is our general IELTS website here. You can click that big red button with the green background, gieltshelp.com. And if you have questions, send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com. All right, let's get into this. So we have this Task 1 class today, and tomorrow we'll have a Speaking Part 2 cue card class for members, so make sure to join tomorrow for that, and then we'll have Speaking Part 3 as well. And again, right now, let's get into some Task 1. Okay, everyone, so I will go through the steps of what you need to do for Task 1 writing to get that perfect Band 9 score. It is really a step-by-step system to get a really good score. It's important that you know what to do. Let's read this. So writing Task 1, spend 20 minutes on this task. Just 20 minutes, not a minute more, not a minute less. You should spend 20 minutes. Practice the timing at home. The charts below show the percentages of types of vehicles sold in the United States in the selected year. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. I believe this is taken from our third or fourth exam, and you should write at least 150 words. That means minimum 150 words. Does anybody know what the most common mistake is that I see when people are writing about pie charts? Can anybody guess? What is the most common mistake? So here we have a pie chart. It's 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010. We have cars and trucks and SUVs. And there's a very, very common mistake that I see so many academic IELTS candidates make when they have a pie chart question and then they're writing about pie charts. Does anybody know what it is? Ashish says it's tenses. Nah, tenses sometimes, Ashish, but it's not the most common mistake. No, there's no control F. Yeah, Carolina, I see you're answering that for us among us. There's no control F function. So, yeah, anything. Okay, Janelle says they write like significantly increased something. Janelle, you're kind of close. How would you explain that? Okay. Oh, it says take each single year, kind of. The most common mistake, I'll tell you what it is writing about pie charts like they're looking at a line graph. Okay. So let me just hop back to the top here. Okay. I'm just going to write it up here. Give me one moment. All right. So The most common mistake that students make when writing about pie charts is they write about line graphs instead of pie charts. These are not the same. Okay, so a pie chart and a line graph is not the same idea. What's the difference? Okay, so what's the difference between a pie chart and a line graph? Why do I say that? Okay. Nyla, flowchart, bar graph, they're all the same level of difficulty as long as you know what you should be writing. They're not that bad. Okay, so what is the difference between a line graph and a pie chart? Natasha says pie charts show proportions. Yeah, sure. So okay. Oh, it says pie charts usually do not determine in time. What do you mean by that? Natasha says line graphs show fluctuations. Propti says line graphs show trends. Propti pie charts show trends too, but it's different. Okay. I still don't see the best answer by anyone. Okay, Vishnu says line charts have many years, but pie charts concentrate on only 1 or 2 years. Okay, Vishnu, you're the closest. Yeah. So pie charts show proportions in a given period, but line graphs show correlations over time, continuously. Okay. So that's the big difference. Everybody clear on that? So a line graph shows continuity. You can see the progression. You can see the movement from start to finish. With pie charts, you do not see start to finish. Okay? Okay, is that clear? All right, that's the biggest difference. So what a lot of students do, and the reason I'm spending time on this, it's a very, very common mistake. A lot of students will say that here, if we look at cars, okay, it's the big blue slice, right? And here you see that it's 95%, and here you see that it's 79%. Well, I see a lot of students will write a sentence like this. They'll do something like this. The pie chart shows that the popularity of cars has been decreasing from 1980 to 1990 from 95 to 79%. Okay, this is an information mistake, and you cannot get a band 9 if you make this kind of a mistake writing about pie charts. So the pie charts show, or the pie charts, I should say, the pie charts show that the popularity of cars has been decreasing from 1980 to 1980 from 95 to 75%. Okay, so this is wrong. Does everybody see that this is bad information? And in university, you would definitely, or college, in a business class, you would definitely lose marks. And in a company where you're in charge of marketing, for example, in a car company, you could even get fired for doing something like that, okay? Because we don't actually see the years between 1980 and 1990. We only see the year 1980 and 1990. We do not see 1980, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we don't see those years. Maybe, just maybe, if we have the year 1981, maybe we have 97% popularity of cars. Okay, so maybe if it's a line graph, it's actually going like this between these years. We don't know if it's decreasing or increasing continuously. We don't have that information. Okay, it's a very common mistake with pie charts that people are writing about them as if they're looking at line graphs. Okay, so don't do that because it's incorrect. And if your essay looks like you're writing a line graph, you will get it wrong. Okay, is that clear for everyone? If I get a couple of thumbs up, I know that you understand what I'm talking about, and then I will move on. Okay, all right, it's clear? Hopefully that's clear. So we're writing about pie charts. So when we're writing about pie charts, we write about the year 1980 and we compare it to the year 1990. We write about the year 1990, we compare it to the year 2000. We compare it to 2010. Okay, so we can only talk about the years that are given. Okay, very clear. You have to be really clear on that. Okay, that's a very easy way to save a band score in your writing if you get a pie chart question. Okay, I see lots of thumbs up now. It's perfect. Okay, thank you, Jovita. Thank you, Tanya, Ravi. Nice, thank you all. Okay, so that's one of the fastest ways that you can save yourself half a band or a band in the writing section if you get a pie chart. Don't write like a line graph. Okay, all right. So what do you do? Let's go through the steps. The first step is to paraphrase the question with details. Okay, so we read the question. The pie charts below show the percentages of types of vehicles sold in the United States in the selected years. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So we paraphrase that. So the overview is 2 parts. Okay, you don't need to think about the overview and the introduction separately, just the overview, okay? So 1, paraphrase the question with details, and 2, indicate the main feature. All right? So let's look at these pie charts again. So we have 1980, we have 1990. Here we have cars, trucks. Here we have cars, trucks, SUVs, okay? And then we have 2000 and 2010, okay? All right, so with this information, we can paraphrase the question and add some more details. Surya is already doing that. Good job, Surya. So Surya says, the given 4 pie charts depict, oh, Surya, it's too bad you removed that. It was a good start. I'm going to start the same way. Okay, so these 4 pie charts depict the popularity of 3 vehicle types: cars, trucks, SUVs in America in 4 years with 10-year intervals, 1980, 1990, 2000, and 2010. Okay, so looking at the original question, it says the charts. I say the pie charts. I say the 4 pie charts. Show the percentages. Okay, so show the percentages. Let's see if I have that. So I paraphrase percentages as the popularity because percentages shows preference or shows popularity. Okay, so paraphrasing. of types of vehicles. I'm more specific. So I look at the legend and I see it's 3 types of vehicles: cars, trucks, and SUVs sold in the United States in the selected year. So instead of the selected year, I specify those years. Okay. Instead of United States, in America, in 4 years with 10-year intervals. Okay. 1980, 1990, 2000, and 2010. So I'm giving more detail here, all right? Don't just paraphrase the question. That's not enough, okay? That's what a lot of other students do, okay? Let's see what some of you wrote. I'll give you some feedback, all right? Okay. So, Un says, the given pie charts show the distribution of 3 types of vehicles, namely cars, trucks, and SUVs that were sold to people in 10-year intervals from 1980 to 2010. That works. Very good. Surya says, the given 4 pie charts depict the proportion of 3 types of vehicles, cars, trucks, and SUVs sold in the United States in 4 different years. Very nice. Surya, add an and after 2000. So 2000 and 2010. Okay. Yeah. Purchased instead of sold. If it's sold, it's bought, right? Somebody has to buy it if it's being sold. All right. Natasha says, the pie charts. Tell your reader how many pie charts you're looking at, Natasha. The 4 pie charts. Below illustrate the proportions of the types of vehicles sold in the United States in a particular year. Natasha, definitely add details to your paraphrase. Don't just paraphrase. Just paraphrasing is a band 6. If you want a band 8, band 9, add more information. Interpret the information, okay? Your goal is to interpret, Natasha, not just to reflect, okay? So paraphrasing is good, but just paraphrasing is not enough for those high bands. Abhishek says, the given pie charts depict the ratio of 3 different types of vehicles, namely cars, trucks, and SUVs traded in the United States in 4 years, 80, 90, 2000, and 2010. Traded is good. Yeah, that works as a synonym in this case for sold. Good. Sandeep says, the pie charts illustrate the proportion of automobiles up for sale in the United States of America from the year 1980 to 1990 with intervals of 10 years. Careful, Sandeep. From the year 1980 is kind of like sounding like a line graph. So in America, from 1980 to 2000 with the interval of 10 years. Yeah, it's good to tell people, it's good to tell your reader that you know you're looking at pie charts. So America in 4 years. So I explained that very clearly that we have just 4 years here, okay? I want my reader to be extremely clear about the fact that we're not looking at a line graph. We're looking at a pie chart. We don't have data for the missing years. So in this 40-year period, we really only have data for 4 time points, okay? It's very important to know that, all right? So careful with the from to, okay? So I'm going to write a little note on that. Note. You have to be very careful to usually avoid using the prepositions from and to when describing pie charts, as these are usually more truer when dealing with line graphs. Okay? Everybody good on that? So that's one of the very common ones where I'm like, it's not a line graph. Okay? It's the from to. We can see that from this year to this year, trucks became more popular. Did they though? Do you know what happened in the years between? Are you sure? Because if not, that could be a serious issue if we're thinking about sales strategy or marketing. Okay? So from to, not necessarily true, right? And it seems like a small mistake, but in the real world, that's a big mistake. Okay? All right. It could be $1 million mistake, so be very careful. Okay? All right. So now we have to explain the main feature. Now, the tip, when you're thinking about the main feature, you don't really need data. You just need the picture. You just need the picture. Okay? So you don't need to look at 79 and 15 and 6. You don't need that information. You just need to look at these big slices, these small slices. And then here we can, well, there's some more slices here. So 2000, you have this slice, and then 2010, you have these slices here. All right. So what do we notice when we look at this? I can shrink it down a little bit like this so you can see all four. There you go. So when you look at these 4 pies, these 4 years, what's the main feature? What do you kind of notice right away? So what jumps out at you? Like what's like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. Onisim, I don't know if the most interesting is biggest portion is cars. There's something else that's a little bit, I think, more interesting. So something actually jumps out at me much more than the biggest is cars. Yeah, the big blue, it's there. I agree with you. That's obvious. But there's actually something that for me that kind of is a little bit more like, whoa, that's interesting. Okay. Again, you're looking at the details, I think, when you're looking at cars and SUVs, even though that looks like it's appropriate, but I don't think so. Okay. All right. For me, well, I'll tell you what kind of is really apparent to me. What is really interesting for me is that these do not look the same, and these do not look the same. These do not look the same, but these kind of look similar. Does anybody else see that? Does anybody else see that? These look quite different. These compared to these look quite different. But these two, 2000 and 2010, look quite similar. Does anybody else see that? Just looking not at the details of cars, SUVs, but just looking at the actual image of the pie chart. Okay, that's what kind of, that when I look at it, that's what's most obvious. Okay, so these are kind of like twins, but these are like very different looking. Okay, so then what can we say? Okay, so if you agree with me on that's very obvious, then what can we say about the trends or the popularity of vehicle types in these years? Okay. Keep it simple. Summarize that for me, because that's the main feature. That's a band 9 main feature. So if somebody writes cars were the most popular in all of the 4 years, that's a band 6.5 main feature. If you write about this similarity and these differences, that's a band 9 level main feature. Okay, so content is king. What you write matters a lot. All right. So always think about that. Don't just think biggest and smallest or most and least. Okay? So I'll write my main feature, you write yours, and then we'll compare, okay? So this is what I would write. So All right. So there's different ways to write it. You don't need lots of English. You can do it in 2 sentences as well. Okay. So Mahmoud Al-Rahal says, from the pie charts, it's clear that the sale portion between 1980 and 90 is different, while the sale portion between 2000 and 2000 is quite similar to each other in terms of sales ratio. Mahmoud, you're close. You're missing one here, though. So the sale is quite different from 1980 to 90, and also from 1990 to 2000. So it's actually very different from here to here, and it's also very different from here to here. It's here where we see a lot of similarity, right? So you want to describe this in the main feature and this in the main feature. Okay, hopefully that's clear. All right, so close, Mahmoud. You're just missing one comparison there. Okay. Sandeep says, overall, the popularity of vehicle sales trend remains similar in the year 1980 and 2000, but the number of car sales remain maximum among all automobiles. Sandeep, that's actually incorrect information. So rethink that, okay? Says, overall, it is evident that the use of vehicles is different among the years 80, 90, and 2000. However, the charts show similar patterns between 2000 and 2010. That's good. That works, okay? So you're using straightforward English, giving clear explanation for the overview. I agree with it. I can see that. It's good writing. Okay? All right. Abhishek says, overall, it is evident that 2000 and 2000 are almost the same pattern. However, these are very dissimilar from the initial years. Abhishek, it's okay. It's a little bit unclear. You should move from the past to the present, okay? So from further past to the more recent past. Moving from 2010 backwards in time is a little bit awkward, okay? So try to be more chronologically from past to present. It's better, all right? So here, this is what I wrote. Let me erase this so you can see it, and I'll enlarge it as well. Just give me one moment. There we go. And whoop, there we are. Okay, so at first glance, let's put a comma after that leading expression. A lot of students forget this comma after the leading expression. Put it in there. So at first glance, it is clear that consumer trends were significantly different comparing the first 3 time periods. However, 2000 and 2010 indicate very similar preferences by vehicle customers. Okay? All right, so from the top, this is my overview. These 4 pie charts depict the popularity of 3 vehicle types: cars, trucks, SUVs, purchased in America in 4 years with 10-year intervals: 1980, 1990, 2000, and 2010. At first glance, it is clear that consumer trends were significantly different comparing the first 3 time periods. However, 2000 and 2010 indicate very similar preferences by vehicle customers. That's your band 9 start. Okay? Is that clear? Everybody following so far? So go beyond what you want to just say like most or least and look at the main feature. Okay, the main feature is often more than just most and least or biggest and smallest. Okay? All right. Abhishek says, got it. Okay, so now we want to go into the analysis. Natasha, Shalom, your overview is looking more like an analysis. Careful with that. Okay? All right, here we go, everyone. So before we write our analysis, we want to indicate our points of comparison and contrast. Always take a minute to indicate your points of comparison and contrast. Okay? All right. So here it makes sense to go chronologically. Okay? So start with 1980, compare 1980 to 1990. Okay? So this is our first point of comparison. All right? What do we want to say here in this comparison? So obviously cars dominate the choice of consumers or the buyers. That's clear. Okay. And we have the this small 5% of trucks. Okay. Now, trucks we want to compare here. What can we say about trucks in 1990? Okay. So Sandeep says a new type of vehicle appears. That would be our next one. This is going to be number 2. What can we say about trucks? Let's see if anybody is getting that. Let me zoom in. Maybe you can see that a little bit more. So remember, your goal is always to interpret. Not just report, but interpret. Band 9 essays are the essays that are interpreting data and not just reporting data. That's super important. Okay, Rashika says twice. It's not twice, Rashika. Careful. You have to be accurate with your information. Okay, don't make information mistakes. So let me move this here, and then you can see it better. Okay. Very good, Surov. So Surov Pan says it's 3 times, threefold. Very good. Yeah, it's a tripling here, right? 15 is 3 times that of 5%. Okay, and then you have the emergence. So this is our number 2, and then this is our number 3. So let's write about that. Okay, let's write about that. All right, so first cars, then trucks, then the green slice by SUVs. Okay, I'll write, you write, and then we'll compare, and you can see the English, the grammar as well. Okay, so we're learning communication and English at the same time. All right, so here we go with the analyses. Now, ideally, what I would do is I would actually do all of the analysis first. So I would do it for 2000 and 2010 as well. But for this class, it'll make more sense to just do it step by step here. So in 1980, comma, I'm starting with a time expression here. So I put a comma after the leading expression, especially when it's time. Okay. So time expressions, when they start a sentence, they are always followed by a comma. Okay. So in 1990, cars dominated sales with 95% of the market. The remaining 5% being comprised of trucks. Okay. However, in 1990, the popularity of trucks had tripled as well. A new type of vehicle, SUVs, had emerged on the market with 6% share of the whole. Okay. All right. So those are my first 3 comparisons. I don't mention cars again. So sometimes students will write cars. Well, the intelligent reader will know that the remainder is made up of cars. Okay. So cars obviously still being the most dominant. Okay. You don't need to necessarily write that unless you're a really quick writer and you can comfortably write 220 words in that 20-minute time. Okay. All right. So in 1980, cars dominated sales with 95% of the market, the remaining 5% being comprised of trucks. However, in 1990, the popularity of trucks had tripled as well. A new type of vehicle, let's take that S off of there, SUVs had emerged on the market with 6% share of the whole. I'm using past tense here and past perfect because I'm talking about the actual time periods. So it's in the past, right? Okay. Onisim says, in the first period, trucks represented the least preferred type of vehicle at 5% compared to cars, which made up 95%. However, 10 years after, the choice of trucks not suffered a threefold increase, because suffer would be negative, but experienced a threefold increase, Onisim. Furthermore, another type of vehicle was introduced to the market, SUVs. Keep it simple, Onisim. All right. Un says, in more detail, in 1980, cars were the dominant choice for customers. We don't know if it's the dominant mode of transportation, Un. Careful, Un, with that, because this is sales, right? So we're talking about sales here, not the mode of transportation. Maybe the dominant mode of transportation was subway. More people ride the subway every day in New York City than drive the car. So, but subways aren't being measured here because we're talking about vehicle sales. So be really careful. Okay, again, on the IELTS, you'll lose a little bit. In university, you'll lose more. In the real world, you'll lose your job. So careful. Okay, accuracy is really important. All right. Okay, let's keep going. So those are our first couple points. Now we're comparing 1990 to 2000. Okay. All right. So in 1990, we have 6% for SUVs, 15% for trucks, 79% for cars, and in 2000, we have 30% for SUVs, 16% for trucks, and 54% for cars. So what can we say about SUVs compared to 1990 for 2000? Okay. Yeah, Onisim, it's a 5-fold increase, right? So it's 5 times greater. So the sales of SUVs are 5 times greater. What can we say about, right? Very clever, because it was 6%, now it's 30%, so it's 5 times greater. That's interpretation, okay? What can we say about trucks? So here we can say 5 times greater. What can we say about trucks? The red slice. It was 15% in 1990. It's 16% in 2000. So what can we say about the trucks? Sales of trucks. Not slightly increased. I think it's irrelevant. Ani says slightly increased. I wouldn't say that. Okay. It's irrelevant. I would say, well, I don't care about a 1%. If I'm if I sell cars, I wouldn't really care about that 1%. If I have a car lot, it wouldn't mean that I would buy more or less trucks. It wouldn't really be an impact on my itinerary. So I would actually say relatively the same. The relative difference is insignificant, okay? What is a significant difference? What is the standard of significant difference according to math? This is a good question. In math, and if some of you have done university, you'll know this. In math, what is usually considered statistically significant? It's a good question. You'll definitely learn this in university if you study psychology, sociology, chemistry. Yeah, very good, Onisim. I can tell you've probably done a bit of university studies because those are quite commonly taught in a lot of the different classes. Yeah. So in math, statistical significance is usually 5% or more. It depends what you're measuring. Sometimes they say 0.5%, but the two benchmarks are 0.5% and 5% or more. Okay. For certain things like medicine, it's 0.5%. for a lot of other topics like economics, for example, 5% is usually the benchmark. Yeah, Rashika, that's right. So 5% or more. Very good. Yeah. So, so if you only have a 1% change 10 years, especially looking at pie charts with a 10-year difference, it doesn't really matter. Okay, it's not going to be statistically significant. Okay, so not for car sales. All right, not in this case. So I wouldn't spend time talking about that 1% difference. Okay, now here we have 54% for cars. How can we describe that? Okay, Onisim, we can't say dramatically decrease so much. We should say something else though. So we can think about this, and we can think about this. So what is this 54%? How much of the pie does it represent? Okay. Yeah, very good, Munish. So Munish says it's around half. More specifically, I would say just over half. Okay, so just over half of all sales. Now, you'll see when I put all of this together why it's important to do this kind of interpretation. Okay, so you're always interpreting data. It's just over half. It's at 54%. I don't want an essay, so ideally in task 1, you don't write an essay that's full of percentages. Is that clear? Does everybody catch me on that? So Band 9 essays generally don't have a whole bunch of percentages like this percent and that percent and this percent and that percent. We can see that. That's in the pie chart. Your goal as the presenter, as the writer, is to interpret the data. Okay? So here, have a look at how I do this. You can write and then we'll compare. Okay? So here we go. Okay, so continuing with the analysis here. All right. After 10 years, let's write after a decade. It's more interpretive. Okay. So after a decade, the popularity of trucks remains relatively the same. Conversely, the preference for SUVs is 5 times greater, which cuts into the demand for cars. Lowering this proportion of the total to just over half. Okay? So that's how you're writing to kind of compose all of those ideas together. Notice how I basically don't have any percents. Okay? It's just the flow. The only place where I have percents is here at the beginning, a few of them. The rest of my writing is all interpretation. Okay? Venkatesh, you can absolutely use proportions, or the other word that you can use is ratios. Ratios, proportions, percentages are all synonyms when you're describing parts of the whole in a pie graph. Absolutely. Mahmoud, you can use past tense when you're referring to the specific year, and you can use present tense when you're referring to the given data now. Okay, make sure that's clear. All right? So in 1980, cars dominated sales with 95% of the market, the remaining 5% being comprised of trucks. However, in 1990, the popularity of trucks had tripled. As well, a new type of vehicle, SUVs, had emerged on the market with 6% of the total. I don't know why that's missing in it. Something's up with my thing here of the total. Let me see why that's getting. Yeah, there we go. Of the whole. After a decade, the popularity of trucks remains relatively the same. Yeah, I see what you're asking, some of you, and I think it's a fair correction. It's better to write after a decade, the popularity of trucks remained relatively the same. Conversely, the preference for SUVs was. Yeah, let's correct those because we're talking about 2000, and that's in the past, so it's a good point. Yeah. Was 5 times greater, which cut into the demand for cars. Let's take that S off as well. There we go. Lowering this proportion of the total to just over half. Okay, now we're good. Good, yeah, review, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, past, we want to stay in the past. All of this information is in the past, so if we're referring to the years, and I did refer to the decade, I want to stay in the past. Okay. All right. Okay, now I've got a little bit more to go here. I'm comparing 2000 to 2010, okay? And here, I've already mentioned that these are relatively the same. So I don't want to just repeat what I already have in my overview. And here we have minus 2% for SUVs and minus 2% for trucks, and then we have plus 4%. So we don't have a lot of writing to do here. We just have to kind of indicate this slight change. Okay? All right? So try this now. Describe this similarity in more detail that we introduced in the overview. Okay? Moreover, Venkatesh is like furthermore, and however is a contrast. Okay, they're quite different. Rajesh, meanwhile, means during that time. Okay, all right. So I'm going to describe the detail of this similarity for this last comparison, and then we can get to our summary, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Okay? So the difference in consumer demand for these vehicle types between 2000 and 2010 is negligible. Okay? The word, when you're looking for the opposite of significant, so if it's insignificant, another way to say insignificant is negligible. We can just kind of neglect it. And if I have a bit of time, I can describe that further and say, there was 2% less demand for both SUVs and trucks, and relatively in regard to this, 4% more for cars. I don't really need to write this last part. I think it's understood. But if I'm really just putting every little detail in there, and I'm confident that I have enough time to type or to write every little detail in there. Okay, so that's the last comparison. You can keep this really, really simple. So the difference in consumer demand for these vehicle types between 2000 and 2010. I don't want to say between because, again, that's kind of what I said before. It seems like I'm talking about a line graph. So instead of between, that's another word you want to be careful about. I'm going to replace that with in. So vehicle types in 2000 and 2010 is negligible. There was 2% less demand for both SUVs and trucks. And in regard to this, 4% more for cars. 4% more interest for cars. In cars. There. So always making it a little bit better and better. Okay. All right. Sandeep, we don't need to mention the cars for the second pie chart because it's clear. In fact, Sandeep, we don't really need to mention cars for this one either because logically, if there's 2% less demand for cars and trucks, then there's 4% more for cars because we're only talking about these three types of vehicles. So we don't really need to mention this last part. It's just if we're putting in every little detail. Okay. All right. Maxim says in 2010, there was a similar trend as in 2000. The difference can be seen in decreasing of total sales of trucks and SUVs by 2% each. Exactly, Maxim. So you don't even really need to discuss cars here because the difference is so negligible. Okay. Medina, for a Band 9 essay, you should have a summary. Good expository essays at the expert level do have a summary. And I know some people are like, well, my teacher says you don't need one or you don't need a hook for your task 2. Good essays, standard essays, according to English literature rules, not Adrian, but English literature rules. Good essays have a conclusion, have a summary, have an epilogue if it's a story. Okay, so you should have a summary. Okay, so keep this in mind. Band 8 and 9 essays do include a summary. It's very hard to get one without a summary because the summary tells your reader what you really got out of looking at this data. Okay, so it's not a conclusion. A conclusion and a summary are not the same. They're similar, they're not the same. Okay, so gives the reader a good overall piece of information that can be learned but not assumed from interpreting the data. Okay, is that clear? Is everybody on par with me what I mean by that? So it gives the reader a good overall piece of information that you can learn from the data, but it's not assumed. It's clear by interpreting the information. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so in summary, although cars are the most popular choice for American consumers in any of the 4 given years, it is also clear that preferences change over time and a significant portion of the market has an affinity for buying SUVs in more modern times. Okay, so this would be your Band 9 summary. Okay, we can see from these pie charts that although cars are the most popular choice for the American consumers in any of the 4 years, it is also clear that the preferences are changing over time or have changed. And a significant portion of the market has an affinity. Affinity means has a desire or has a like for buying SUVs in more modern times. Would you agree that we can see this summary? So we can see this information by looking at the 4 pie charts. So when we look at this, we can see, okay, cars are most popular, cars are most popular. Okay, cars are still most popular, but whoa, wait a second. Those big green slices, definitely some people in more recent times really like buying SUVs. I think we can make that summary from looking at these graphs. And by making that summary and telling your reader that, you will definitely get a better band score. Okay? So here's your overall essay, and this is what's required for a band 9. Look at it with me, okay? So these 4 pie charts depict the popularity of 3 vehicle types: cars, trucks, SUVs, purchased in America in 4 years with 10-year intervals: 1980, 1990, 2000, and 2010. At first glance, it is clear that consumer trends were significantly different comparing the first 3 time periods. However, 2000 and 2010 indicate very similar preferences by vehicle customers. In 1980, cars dominated sales with 95% of the market, the remaining 5% being comprised of trucks. However, in 1990, the popularity of trucks had tripled as well. A new type of vehicle, SUVs, had emerged on the market with 6% share of the whole. After a decade, the popularity of trucks remained relatively the same. Conversely, yeah, and I think somebody said, put a comma after conversely. I agree with that. There should definitely be a comma there. The preference for SUVs was 5 times greater, which cut into the demand for cars, lowering this proportion of the total to just over half. And I should put another comma here because I'm defining afterwards. The difference in consumer demand for these vehicle types in 2000 and 2010, let's change that to past tense as well because we're still referring to the time, was negligible, and I need agreement here. There was 2% less demand for both SUVs and trucks, and in regard to this, 4% more interest in cars. In summary, although cars are the most popular choice for American consumers in any of the 4 given years, it is also clear that preferences change over time, and a significant portion of the market has an affinity for buying SUVs in more modern times. Okay? Or instead of times here, so I have a little bit less redundancy, more modern years or decades, even better. Okay, everyone, so that's it. That's how you do it. Go through those steps, practice it lots. Make sure not to confuse line graphs and pie charts when you're writing about these. That is the biggest mistake. Okay. Venkatesh, you can say in contemporary times rather than contemporary world. Contemporary world is a bit awkward. Contemporary times. Okay. All right, check us out, aehelp.com for academic IELTS. You can get HD videos with me and other teachers. We are world leaders when it comes to IELTS test preparation online. We have helped thousands of students in the past, and we help hundreds, if not thousands of students every day to reach their IELTS goals. So aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gltshelp.com for general IELTS. I will be back tomorrow with part 2, part 3, speaking strategy and practice. So come back and hang out with me then. You are very welcome, Adam and everyone. Have a great rest of your day. If it's late in your country, get some rest, sweet dreams, and I will be back again tomorrow. Much love to all of you from the heart of Europe. I'm Adrian, signing out for now. Bye.